Welcome to Fine, I'll Talk About It, the podcast where we say the quiet parts out loud. Real talk, no fluff, no fake positivity. I'm your host, Danielle Young, and today I am joined by spirit medium Daniel. Daniel has been gifted with the ability to communicate with archangels and spirit. With this information, he guides and assists others to fulfill their spiritual path. His main goal is to teach people about their reason for existence and to help them to become a better version of themselves. It is with this intention that he operates out of a spirit of love and compassion. Daniel has been able to help many people in finding their true path with amazing results. Daniel takes extreme pride in his ability to answer all of the unanswered questions. Daniel, welcome to Fine, I'll Talk About It.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on. I know in our first conversation, I wanted to just keep talking to you forever because I love your story.
Yeah, well, at least you do. My wife, not so much, but I get it.
Well, I can understand why she wouldn't. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and why you're called Spirit Medium Daniel?
My name is Daniel Jackson, but I go by Spirit Medium Daniel. I don't call myself psychic because when you say the word psychic, then people start coming up to you and say, "What am I thinking now?" And I go, "I don't know what you're thinking now, but everyone else thinks you're a moron for asking that question because that's kind of dumb." But I have seen spirit ever since the age of 3 years old. My parents and I, my two brothers and sister, grew up in New Jersey in a little town called National Park, and it had a battlefield in it. We just called it the park because you could go have barbecues and stuff there, but it had all these monuments, but it had cannon there and a little hospital there. And this is where the Hessians fought, and everyone in that area was experiencing spirit. We'd hear the stories from different people, but we were having a lot going on in our home, to the point where, like, my two brothers and I were downstairs watching TV, and my sister's record player, two flights up, turned on. Um, but not just turned on, whatever was there was switching records. So back then it was the '70s, so you had a record on the post and you dropped the needle while it was taking records off and putting records on. Um, my sister was getting ready for school one time and she was standing in front of the mirror on this in the bathroom on this door, and my mom was helping her with her hair. When I went in front of the mirror again, there was another woman standing there with a colonial outfit on. So we were experiencing lots of things, ashtrays moving, glasses moving, all types of things like that all the time. But then by the time I was 17, my one brother had gotten married, so he moved out. My sister found an apartment. My one brother and I and my mom and dad moved down to Delaware, and I was the only one who was continuing to see things, but I was seeing them on a regular basis all the time. So it just got to be part of my life. As I explain to people, when you're kids and your mom and dad feed you green beans, and then 30 years later you love green beans because you get used to it. I got used to it, but it was happening throughout my entire my life. I remember one time watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show with my girlfriend. She's at the foot of the bed, and I'm at the other end of the bed, and then out of my closet, this big thing, maybe 4 feet long and 3 feet wide, snaked its way across my room out of the closet, and it just disappeared. My girlfriend was like, "Did you see that?" I said, "Yeah, I saw that. Let's get out of here." So I just kept having experiences like that all the time, and this was in my uh, 20s, 30s, 40s. I mean, there was one time I was I used to play in a rock band, and I had big hair and zebra striped spandex. I thought I looked cool, but probably not so much. I came home from a gig and I laid down in bed. When I did, something laid down next to me. And this happened like
Oh,
3 or 4 times where I'd lay down and I'd feel the whole bed shake and the pillow would press down, and I'd look around, but that 5th time when it happened, I laid down. So when I did, I went to look and see what it was, and whatever was there picked up the blanket I had on top of me, and it brought it up to the ceiling and shook it above me, and then it dropped it on top of me. And then for 2 years after that, I slept on the couch downstairs because I was scared shitless. But
yeah.
but these types of occurrences would happen frequently, so much. I was always told when I was young, both my sister and I, we were sensitive to spirit. That's what I was always told. But I just had a lot of ghost stories for all my friends. And then again, it was just progressing. up into my 30s, 40s, and then right before turning 50, my wife went away on vacation for 2 weeks to go visit her daughter, and for those 2 weeks, I saw everything you could ever imagine in a scary movie happening in my house. Um, it was disturbing, to say the least. Clouds coming out of the walls and clouds coming out of the ceiling, and I'd see, each cloud would be like a different color each night when I go to sleep, like red or green or blue, and then green with black stripes, red with black stripes. I saw 7-foot skeletons walking around the home. I saw skulls floating around the house with red eyes and fangs. So crazy stuff. And then my wife came home from vacation. She told me about her adventures, and then I told her about mine. Now, my wife at the time was a nurse, and she thought maybe because I'm diabetic, my medicines were causing me some type of psychosis. And then 3 days later, she started seeing some of the same things in the house. So
Really?
yeah, we we had a we had done as much research as we could find. I found a paranormal group to come to the house. I found two, but one of them came to the house, and they got so much information from my home that by the time they left, they were supposed to come back after 2 weeks to do a big reveal, and they never come back. It took me 6 weeks to get a hold of them, and the leader told me that they broke up on my front lawn because it was so it wasn't horrifying stuff, but it was so much information. They weren't used to getting that kind of information from one home. It would take them like 10 or 15 homes to get all the stuff they got from my home. Um, like, I remember one of the tests they wanted to do, they had all these little boxes with lights on them and wires sticking off of them. And I said, "What's that do?" And then the guy said, he rubbed his hand on my couch and he waved it above it, and the thing lit up, bloop, lit up. And I was like, "What's that? What's that all about?" He said, "Well, spirit put out static electricity. So when they're around, these things will go off." Well, we were walking around the house and he said, "So do you have where's the most active place?" I said, "Pff, the whole house. Where do you want to go? I mean, it doesn't make a difference."
Right.
He said, "Well, let's go in the bedroom." I said, "Okay." So we walk in the bedroom. I walk in. As soon as I did, every one of the lights just lit up. And I turn around and look at them and I'm like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "We don't know." And they walk through, nothing. So, they come in the bedroom and they do this one test where they want me to go in. One guy says, "Let's go in the walk-in closet and see if we pick up anything in it." I feel like I'm drawn to go in there. I said, "Okay." So I walk in. He walks in behind me. He looks at me and he's like, "Oh man, I'm getting sick to my stomach. Oh, I gotta get out of here." And he runs out and I said, "Sit on the bed." And he sits on the bed. I said, "You okay?" He's like, "Yeah, I think I'm okay. Can we go back in?" I said, "Sure." I go back in, he goes back in within seconds, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get sick again," and he runs out and sits on the bed. I said, "Are you alright?" He's like, "Yeah." "How come you're not getting sick?" I said, "I don't know, you're the freaking expert, why don't you tell me?" So, it was
Wow.
crazy. It was crazy. One of the last experiments they did is they wanted me to go in the bedroom and pretend I was sleeping, and they came in with this thing called an Ovilus, a spirit box.
Mhm.
And when I was laying there in bed and they walked in and they turned it on. And immediately when they turned it on, it started spitting out words. It said Wendy, Michael, Paul, Helen, unique, special, light, energy. One time it said the word road, like a street. And when it said road, a car went past my house. And I was like, what's going on here? This is crazy.
Wow.
So what they did is they asked like for 10 minutes straight because they said they timed it. And for 10 minutes straight, it answered. And one of the questions they asked was, "Are you here to harm Daniel?" And then that computer voice came out and said, "No, we are not here to harm Daniel. We love Daniel. We love Daniel's light. Daniel is the light." When it said Daniel is the light, I was like, what the heck is that supposed to mean? I mean, just so much stuff was happening. So, I mean, even when they went out of the room, I went out and they're all huddled up. And I said to my wife, what's going on? She's like, "I don't know. They're talking about something." So they got done and they turned around. Now, I was excited at that point because We my wife and I had been going through so much for like 6 months. We couldn't get this figured out, and so these people were witnessing something we were witnessing all the time, every day. So I said to him, "Hey, you got all that, right? I mean, that was really good, right? That was really good." And he said, "Well, there's a problem, Mr. Jackson." I said, "A problem with what?" I said, "It wasn't bad stuff." He goes, "No, it's not bad stuff. But whenever we use that ovulus, we can only get it to spit out a word or two. It never says sentences." And he said, "And it didn't, it said sentences for 10 minutes." I said, "Okay." He said, "We got to get this figured out, but we'll come back and do a big reveal." And he gave me a squirt bottle. I said, "What's that for?" He said, "Oh, it's holy water." He said, "If something bad comes, you just spray the bottle." Well, I just found out, I found out later on that it's water. I mean, you can't bless water. It's just physically impossible. And, um, and he gave me some prayers to put on the computer, and that doesn't work either. It's just a bunch of mumbo jumbo. So, so they left and they just never came back. I mean, the strange part, I mean, for me to deal with something like that was when, even when they showed up in their little van with this little insignia on it. And I
Mhm.
just thought to myself, I don't want to be this kind of famous. I
Yeah.
mean, everyone around me is going to think they're living next to a poltergeist home or something. Unfortunately for them, they were,
Yeah.
yeah, so that just, and then eventually I found, we after that didn't work out, I looked around, I found 5 mediums, none of them knew each other, every one of them told me the same story about me, but, it just it has progressed. That one of them wanted me to come to her show, and she said, "I want you to see how I do it," and I was like, "Do what?" You know, "I don't know what you're talking about." So my wife and I go to the show, and when we go into the show, we walk in, that lady's standing on the stage, and she's like, 100 feet away from me, and she sees me walk in the room, and she just locks eyes with me, and as I'm going through the room and sit down, she's watching me, and my wife says, "What was that all about? That was creepy." I was like, "I don't know, I don't." She said, "You tell her you were coming?" I said, "Well, I told her I was gonna buy a ticket, but I didn't tell her what show I was coming to. I just came to the one that was closest to us." So, and she ended up reading 8 people in the room, and one of them was me, and when she read me, she said the spirit kept coming through trying to get in front of the line of the other spirits, which was, I was like, "What is she talking about?" But, when the spirit came through, she said, "I'm getting a picture of this man who wears a suit and tie, but he also wears t-shirts and flannel shirts on the weekends, and he's showing me that he fell down, and that's the way that he passed away, and does this equate to anybody?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think that's me." And she said, "Well, I'm also getting a name. His name is Robert, but he goes by Bob." I said, "Oh, that's me." I said, "My dad's name is Robert, but he goes by Bob. He wears t-shirts and flannel shirts, but he also wears a business suit." And he did fall down. That's how he passed away. He was in a basement cleaning up the basement because all of us kids were coming over for Easter. And he fell down and he got up and then he went to go upstairs and he fell down again. When he did, it moved his brainstem. Um, and then she said, "Who is Sarah?" And I said, "Sarah?" And she said, "Yes, Sarah, the one who had to make the big decision." I was like, "I have a niece named Sarah," but she said, "No, Sarah, who made the big decision for your dad to leave." I was like, "Oh, that's my mom. My mom's name is Joan, but her middle name is Sarah." So
Mm.
she had to make the
Wow.
decision to pull the plug.
Yeah.
And then she said something about, he showed me a picture of someone who wears scrubs and a stethoscope and a school bus and looks like prison bars. I don't know what that is supposed to mean. I said, "Oh, yeah, that's me." I said, "I went to school for medical records and now I work in a prison." So I knew all that was when she was getting all that, I was like, "Okay, this is real stuff." So so I went down to the stage and I introduced myself at the end of the show. And I said, "I'm Daniel." And she said, "Oh, I just spoke to you on the phone like 2 weeks ago." I said, "Yeah." And then she spoke to me like a teacher, and I'm 7 years old. She said, "Stay here, don't move, wait till everybody leaves. You and I need to have a talk." And I'm like, "Oh crap," like, what did I do? But and then she said, "So I understand you see a lot of spirit." And I said, "Yeah, it's like being in a room with 1,000 people, except nobody leaves, more just keep coming in." And she's like, "That many?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, they're coming to you. That's why you see so many." I said, "Why would they be coming to me?" She said, "Oh, I saw you come into the room. I could feel you on the outside of the room." She said, "When you walked into the room, I could see you, but I see you like spirit sees you. And I said, how do they see me? She said, oh, you look like a white light. Like you just look like a figure of white light. You're a beacon of light and they're coming to you so you can help them. I said, do what? What am I going to help them do?
Yeah.
And she was like, they want you to help them cross over or they want to have conversations with you. And I was like, cross over? What are you talking about? She said, yeah, to cross over into heaven. I said,
And how old were you when this happened?
um, when I went to see her, it was about 6 months before being turning 50.
Oh, okay. So you weren't a child. This was adult
No,
and
no, this was 9 years ago. I'm turning 59 next week. So yeah,
okay.
it was kinda crazy, I mean, and but she said, "Yeah, they're coming to you." And I said, Why are they coming to me?" She goes, "Oh, Daniel," she said, "You're so bright. You look like they think that you're the light into heaven. That's how bright you are." She said, "I've never seen anybody who's that bright." And she said, You just look like a figure, a man figure, but you're a solid bright white light." And she said, "It was hard to look at you." And I was like, "Really?" I mean, do I look like I'm hard to look at? I don't know. But anyway, but, yeah, I got jokes. But, um but yeah, and then she said, You have to make a big decision with this." I was like, "With what?" She said, "Oh, Daniel, you're just an untrained medium. You just don't realize it." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well," and she said, "You have to make a big decision. You have to have a sit down talk with God and decide if this is what you're going to do." I said, "Do what?" She said, "Decide if you're going to be a medium or not." I said, "I don't know what to think about that." And she said, "Well, I know you don't want this to go away." And I was like, "I mean, it's been a part of my life, my entire life, but I don't know what I'm doing here." She said, "Right, you need to be trained on that as well." She said,
Yeah.
and she said, "If you do," she said, "I think you're gonna be very powerful. I think you have more power than you understand." And I was like, "Okay," so my wife and I ended up going home, and then, and I said on the way home, I said to my wife, I said, "I guess I'll have this talk with God." I mean, so when I got home, I sat there for a little bit, and she's like, "You all right?" I'm like, "How do I have a talk with God? What do I do?"
Yeah, that's a tall order. Like,
Yeah.
to have a talk with God.
Yeah, I mean,
How do you do
how
that?
do you do that? And so my wife puts everything into perspective for me, and she said, "How do you talk to him any other time?" And I was like,
Mm,
"Oh, okay." So I went in the bedroom and basically sat down and I said, "God," I said, "I don't know what's going on here with me, but I need help. I mean, I've looked everywhere else for help, and I can't find any help, and I need you to help me here because I need to figure this out. But if you help me out, I'll do whatever you want me to do. If you want me to help these spirit, like this woman said, or help them to cross over, or even if you want me to help people, I'll do whatever you want me to do." And I nervously said it in a way where I said, "I'll do whatever you want. I'll go wherever you want." And I thought about that for a second because I was like, well, if I have to go somewhere and do this away from my wife, how am I going to do that? And I'll be whatever you want me to be, and I'll be wherever you want me to be, whatever you want me to do. You just point me in a direction. I'll go. So when I got done the conversation, I went out to my wife and said, "Well, I mean, we'll see what happens." The very next day, everything started to change. And then
mm,
eventually, some people came into my life. I met a woman who was doing an intuition class. We went. And from that class, I told everybody there what was going on, and everybody there in the class is looking at me like, "What?" And, and so the
mm.
woman at the end of the class, she said, "Look, I'm putting a group together. It's all professional mediums. You need to come. I I think we can help you figure this out." And they did. And I worked with them for about a year, and they helped me to develop, my ability. But since then, my ability continues to grow and grow and grow and grow, and it's always progressing. Like in the beginning, I was getting answers from them that I'd hear thought come in, but I also found out there another medium told me they were touching me on my face for yes and no answers, and I was like, "Oh, really? Like where?" She said, "On your face." I said, "Oh, is that what that is?" She's like, "Why? You felt it before?" I said, "Yeah, I just thought it was a bug crawling across my face. I'd always brush it away, but, so I actually sat in my office in prison and, and said to them, I said, "So you're touching me on my face for yes and no answers," and I got touched. I was like, "Wait a minute. Slow down. I gotta figure this out." I said, "So I'm gonna ask some questions and like a trial and error thing." And I said, "You can just tell me the answers." I said, "So is my name Daniel Johnson?" And I got touched, "No." Like here, right here on my face, I got touched there. And I was like, "Oh, so that means no." And then they touched me. And I was like, "Wait, hold it, slow down." And yeah,
Overload.
it was so much. Yeah, it was an overload. And I said, "Okay, so if that's no, is my name Daniel Jackson?" Then they touched me here and I said, "Yeah, okay, great, cool." And I thought I had the keys to the castle at that point, but then I had to learn patience as well because I would ask a question and I wouldn't get an answer for like 45 minutes. And I was like, what the heck's going on? I was getting frustrated and this is going on for a period of time. And I talked to my wife about it, and she's like, "Maybe you're not asking the question in the correct way." And I
Mm,
was like, "Oh, maybe I'm not." As soon as I started doing that, I get answers all the time now. And that, but even now, when I ask a question for myself, like I'm grabbing this bottle here, when I ask questions for myself, I never ask, "Can I do something?" Because I can do anything I want to do by using my free will. I
right.
always ask, "Should I do?" So I'll pick up. I don't even have to. I used to have to say it. Should I take this? Like I would pick up a pill bottle in the morning because I'm diabetic, and I go, "Should I take this?" And get touched no, and so I wouldn't take it because I listen, trust, and follow through with everything they tell me to do. Because even back then, 8 years ago, they told me if I did that, listen, trust, and follow through with everything they tell me to do, I would never get into another car accident again. I haven't, so not even a
Right.
close call. So in the morning, I'll just pick up my pill bottle and hold it and look at it, and they tell me no. I go, okay, I put it down.
Was there ever a time that you doubted that? That
Never,
no. Okay.
never, never,
You were
because
just
of the experiences I had. Um, the experiences I had while figuring this out, working with those women, I found out I could do something called channeling. I had no clue. I would hear voices come through. I mean, plain as voices come through, and one of them told me to talk to this one girl at the meeting. Her name was Shaban, and ask his permission if we could sit across from each other, clear out our minds. I'm supposed to hold out my hands, and she's supposed to touch my hands and see what comes through. I mean, literally, they said, sit with Shaban, ask her for permission, hold out your hands. She'll hold your hands, you clear out your minds. And they said, and just watch. And I was like, just watch? What do you mean by that? And that's what I was supposed to do. So I did that with her at the end of the class. I said, Siobhan, they want me to sit across from you, and if it's okay with you and clear out our minds, I'm supposed to hold out my hands, and you're going to hold my hands, and something's going to come through. And then one of the other women in the room said, "Are you getting ready to channel?" And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what the heck I'm doing here, but okay. So when we did that, and then when we cleared out our minds and she grabbed my hands, she did this like that. And I was like, what the heck going
oh,
on? And she's like, oh my God, that's the most energy I've ever felt in my life. And she said, I can see your spirit guides, Helen and Manos. And I was like, and I didn't tell them the names. I was like, yeah, I Manos and Helen are here. And they said, yeah. And she said, Manos means uh, the light of, or the light of God, or God is with us, or no, the light of God. And Helen means uh, God is with us, and that in Greek. And I was like, yeah, I looked that up already. I know. So, but every time I'd go getting ready to go to that meeting, they would give me a message to channel with a different person there, and I did it with every one of them. But one of them I did it with was this is where I learned to do everything they tell me to do. I mean, they're asking me to do it. I have free will. I can refuse to do it, but I never did. But at this point, I'm too far gone.
yeah.
I'm too far into it now. Um, so I'm supposed to sit with this one woman, Lana, and sit across from her. We do the same thing, and then she grabs my hand every time. It's like that, and then she's when she opened her eyes, this voice came through, and it wasn't her voice. It was a deep, really deep sounding, very very present voice, commanding voice. But the voice came through and said, "Hello, my son." And I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
um, "Hello." And he said, "How are you?" I said, "I'm good." I said, "Who am I speaking to?" He said, "It is I, your father. You call me God." He said, "But I prefer to be called Father." He said, "Because you use that word God too many times that have nothing to do with me." And I was like,
Yeah,
I'm getting goosebumps now. I was like, that I said, "That was profound." I mean, we do use that word too many times that have nothing to do with him. I mean, when I was a kid in the '70s, we called Led Zeppelin the gods of rock and roll, but they're not really gods.
right.
I mean, so and but when he said that, I was, like, sitting there and I was like, "Oh my god." My skin just felt like it was on fire. I was like and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at everybody else, and everybody's hair is sticking straight out, and they're all grabbing their skin and like, "Oh my god, oh my god." And then he said, "Don't worry, that'll go away soon." And I was like, Okay, okay." And then it started to go away. And he said, "Daniel, you need to learn to trust yourself." I said, "I'm having a hard time with that." He said, "Yes, I know you are." He said,
Yeah,
"You also need to stop asking why." And when he said that, I mean, I said, I "You heard that?" He said, "Of course I heard that. I hear everything." He said, "You need to stop asking why." I said, I'm just trying to figure out why me." He said, "Because it just is.
yeah.
That's why."
Wow,
But he
what a
said,
profound,
well, here's another profound one. He said, "You need to either shit or get off the pot." And I was like, "What did you say?" And he said, "You heard me." And I said, "My mother says that." And he said, "Where do you think she got it from?" And I was like, and then he laughed. And I was like, "You're laughing." He said, "Oh, Daniel, we love a good joke." And I was like, "What the?" But then he said, You will soon be working with my children." He said, "You refer to them as archangels." So when I talk to people and they say, "What do you do?" I say, I work with who we refer to as archangels because that's what he told me. But he said, "You'll be working with my children." He said, "It's going to be a process. It's not going to be easy, but this is what you must do." And I was like, "Okay. I mean, I'll do whatever you want me to do."
Yeah,
And he said, "I know you will." He said, "But you do have a choice." He said, "You don't have to do this if you don't want to." I said, "I want to do this. I feel
how
like
do
I
you
have to." And
yeah,
he
how do you
said,
say no to God?
"Yeah." And he said, "Oh, I know you will." And I was like, "Okay." He said, "But it's going to be a long process. It's going to take a long time." I said, "Okay." And then he told me some other stuff and then told me stuff. And then the voice was, he was telling about the people in the room and then what's going to happen in this world and everything. And he said, "Do you have any other questions?" I said, "N- No. What do I ask you?" And he said, "Anything you want." And I was like, "Okay." He said, "But my children will come to you all the time. You can always ask them. If you need to call on me, just ask." And I said, "Okay." I said, he said, "Anything else?" I said, I know. I think I'm good." He said, "Okay. I love you."
Mm, wow,
What do you
what
say
a
to that?
moment. Yeah, what do you say?
And the overwhelming feeling of love that was coming into that room, I
Yeah,
can't explain it. It was just kind of crazy. Then working with archangels was so I would see them prior to this, these white lights, bluish white lights coming out of my floor and going up through the ceiling. And I'd always look down to try to see where they were coming from, but every time I turned my head, it would just kind of disappear. And then when I turned my head straight again, it was there. So I was out of the corner of my eyes, but I could see it all around me. And then at nighttime, that after that, I started seeing these beings in front of me. And these beings had like arms and like little tentacles coming down and stuff. And I was like, what is this, man? This is crazy stuff. And then
mm,
at night, I'd see those little tentacles coming down and touching me on my skin. And I feel these cold little touches all over my entire body. And I was like, okay, I guess this is what he was talking about. And then I'd go to sleep because I'd fall asleep. It'd make me go to sleep. And then I'd wake up 2 or 3 hours later, I'd be throwing up and crapping everywhere. It was
oh,
just,
wow,
it was bad. So, and that would happen for like 2 or 3 hours, and then I would be okay. I'd recover from it. And then I would see them again 2 weeks later, and they would do the same thing, and then I'd go to sleep and wake up throwing up and crapping everywhere, like getting the flu twice a month. And what this was them working on my soul so I can see them, hear them, feel them, communicate with them better, but also purging my body at the same time to be able to take this kind of energy.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's almost like a purge
Yeah, the
of
energy is so strong from angels, it would knock you on your butt, and angels people say, "Oh, an angel came to me." No, if an angel came to you, you would be throwing up and crapping because the energy is so strong. This is what it's going to make you violently sick. So that process went on twice a month, like getting the flu twice a month, and that went on for 3 years. So, this is what I was saying yes to, because I said, "Yes, I'll do whatever you want me to do." So, I didn't realize what saying yes to was, but I know now. So and people ask me about that, and they say, maybe this was just a process for you." I said, "No, this is the process. If you wanna work with angels or if you're meant to work with angels because you're chosen for that, God chooses that." Um Everyone has an ability, as I know by talking to them all day long, because I do, and they talk to me. Uh, the process is if you have an ability, it's because this is part of your soul. That when God created your soul, He put that in with it. As they tell me, some of us are meant to be teachers, others are just meant to be students. So, the ones who have it, and sometimes you wake up to it in your lifetimes, and sometimes you don't. And sometimes people wake up to it, but they're afraid of it because you're dealing with spirit. Throughout my day, I don't ever not see, hear, feel, smell, sometimes taste. You don't want that part, and
yeah.
communicate with spirit. When I say you don't want that part, it's when a negative energy comes through and is trying to uh, overpower me or something like that, or influence me. But they can't because they can't get close to me because my angel, my say my angels because they are. Um, Protect me from everything. But when they do come in, they still talk to me, and when that sensation comes in, it feels like someone just threw up in your mouth. That's what it tastes like. It's horrible. Uh,
Well,
but that's them just trying to be who they are, negative. But yeah, this has been going on for me for 9 years. It's every day of my life. It doesn't turn off. It doesn't go away. I look at your background, I see the bricks there and all that stuff. You would probably see that color of the bricks. I don't. I see that, but I also see blue in that. But I see blue in you and everything else. And that blue that I'm seeing is the veil. So whenever in my regular vision, eyes open and closed, I see spirit
so
everywhere.
I have a couple questions.
Sure, I love questions.
Okay. How were you able to distinguish the names of your spirit guides from other spirits?
Well, regular spirit do talk to me. I see them around me. Again, it's like being in a room with 1,000 people. Um, like I had some spirit last week who came in, and one of them, I saw a group of them there because I keep my room completely blacked out so I can see everything. But again, I don't just see spirit, and I don't just see people. I see dogs, cats, horses, cows, fish, other beings from other worlds, everything. I see into other dimensions, other realms. I remote view that just turns on, but I have a little bit of control of it. But I had some spirit in front of me, and this guy just turned around he had glasses on, and because they are pure energy, they can manipulate themselves to look like anything they want to. And he said, "Hey Daniel, can you hear me?" And I said, "Yeah, I can hear you." And then he turned back around to the group. He said, "Yeah, you can hear us," and that was it. I was like, "Okay, well, what next?" But whenever I get whenever I was getting touched, I knew I had one touch here on my eyebrow, my left eyebrow, and that was Manos, and on my right eyebrow was Helen. The way that happened is I said, "Well, who's touching me?" And I heard a name in my mind, and I was like, "Manos." I said, and I heard Greek, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll look it up." And then Helen, and they also said Greek, and I looked it up. Um, but that was even solidified when I did that channeling session. She said
Yeah.
Manos and Helen, and I was like, I never told her that. So every time I get a touch, I get a new touch on my face, a name comes in. I write it down. In the beginning, it was just one touch here, Hannah, Manos, and Helen, and then I just got a general answer for no. But now it's to the point where I just get a general yes. It could be any one of them telling me that yes, but there's always someone there telling me that yes. And like I said, in the beginning, it was 2 touches. As of last night, I had a new touch come in, and now I get 103. So I have 103 different names, 103 different touches on my face and on my head. And whenever I'm being touched, I know exactly who's doing it and when. And sometimes it's 3 or 4 of them at the same time. Even
So it's
this one right here down the center of my forehead. Jesus.
oh, okay. So your spirit guides touch you above your eyebrows.
Yeah, well, they cuts me
Everybody else
all
let
over my
go.
face now. So, like, right over
Okay.
here is, I had another one come in after Helen. Helen moved to the back of my head. She touches the back of my head. It feels like someone's rubbing my head when I get nervous about something. She'll rub my head. Uh, and or if they're working on me, I feel other little touches. Feels like a spider walking across your head. And when they're working on me for more of information and stuff like that, I feel that. And I'll say, are you guys working on me? No, touch me yet. But yeah, I
Okay.
get touched. Now it's another one over here. Uriel. Uriel used to be up here, but now Uriel's over here. But I have Gabriel, Raphael. I have a Raphael here. I have another Raphael here, but I call him Rafi. Um, Michael. Michael touches me right here. It feels like a swirling on the top of my head. But yeah, it just you get used to it after a while. It's so much. It is a lot, but you get used to it after a while, and I'm used to it. And I had a new touch come in last night, so I went on my phone and I wrote the name down because I have to add it to my list. But
So the archangels,
they are not men with wings and shields and swords. They're
yeah,
not magical beings that are going to fix your life. And nobody has a guardian angel. If you had a guardian angel following you around, guarding you from everything in your life, what would you learn? Nothing.
you would learn nothing.
No.
Yeah.
Why would a
So the
guardian
people.
angel keep you from getting sick, but not keep your dog from getting hit by a car? Because they don't do either.
So what do you say to the people who? Because I mean, there's a big money market in this, the
Unfortunately,
spiritual
yes. Yeah.
world. So the people who say get in touch with your spirit guides, what's your opinion on that? Can everybody get in touch with their spirit guide?
Yes, but they don't want to.
Why don't they want to? Can you
Because it's hard
explain
work.
why? Oh, okay.
Because
So that
it's a process. The unfortunate process is, as my guides tell me, in order to get clear messages, you must be clear. In order to get clear and concise answers, you must be clear. What does that mean? Um, you
purge.
ready? No pain, anger, sorrow, grief, guilt, anguish, hate, greed, drama. No smoking, no drinking, no doing extra pharmaceuticals, drugs. Uh, no, none of that stuff. If you have tattoos, stop getting them because it's more important to be spiritually free than it is to be fashionable.
So it's not just a matter of sitting down in a meditation and being quiet and
No,
asking to speak to your guides.
no,
Okay.
no.
Yeah,
It's
that
hard,
I
and
I hear
nobody wants to
that
do
a
it.
lot. Yeah.
People want to go to they want to go to Staples and get an easy button. Think it's all going to be easy.
Yeah. I mean, you hear it a lot. You hear just sit in silence and talk to your guides.
No, well, you can talk to them all you want, but you have to have them talk to you. That's the thing. Now, when I do tell people this is what you have to do, what I also tell them is prior to doing your meditation is say out loud, is there anything you want me to see, hear, feel, or do? What do you want me to do next? And then go into meditation because then it will bring it to you instead of you just waiting there. I mean, when you're a child and you're hungry, did you ask your mom and tell her I'm hungry, or did you just sit there and wait? Nobody wants to wait; they want it right now. So if you want the information right now, ask for it. They'll bring it.
And
And
what
when you
about
do
signs?
when you do that, you're recognizing the fact that they are real and recognizing the fact that you want their help, and they're going to incline to help you more that way because they want to develop a personal relationship with you. But again, in order to get those clear messages, you must be clear. We get messages sometimes in our dreams, but why? Because when you're in your dreams, your soul actually rises up out of your body. It's always connected. The soul is always connected. The only time it's not connected is when you're done and you're out of here. But you're out of your body, and because you're out of your body, the human body, the body itself and the brain are a block. Everything is a block. with the body and the brain. Consciousness is not the brain. It's not a pineal gland or anything like that. It is the soul, and the soul, the power behind the brain and the body is the soul. The soul getting the body, working with the brain. The brain makes the little parts work, and it gets you to turn around and notice things and pick up on things like that, like what we call angel numbers and all these other things. You're seeing them because your soul is directing your body to turn around and do that. And the soul is here to learn things. And the only way it can learn to be in this physical world is be within this physical body, which is a vessel, in order for the soul to be here. That's all the reason for it. But when the soul does leave, it will retain the shape of you, and you'll be you. But you'll be you with all your memories of this lifetime, but all your other lifetimes as well. Why is everything else? Why are you not able to retrieve those lifetime memories now? Because your body is blocked. Because you have all that pain, anguish, sorrow, grief, guilt, anguish, anxiety, all that stuff within you, and you're not willing to release it. You can, but no one's willing to do it.
What
I
does
am.
it take to release it?
You let it
What's
go.
the
My favorite 3 words, you let it go.
let it go?
You know,
Yeah.
when you're driving down the street and you see a car accident, do you have to rubberneck? No, you don't. If you can't actually physically do something about it, keep going. It has nothing to do with your life. Do you have to let someone get angry at you? Well, they'll get angry, but do you have to react to it? No, you do not. You can choose to let it go and go, oh, are you done? Well, don't you have anything to say? No, have a great day. No, I choose not to get angry over other people's anger. I choose not to get into other people's drama. I don't have to do any of it. I don't have to smoke. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I have no tattoos whatsoever because they tell me not to get tattoos because in order to get clear messages, I must be clear. So I don't do it. But I listen, trust, and follow through with everything they tell me to do. Anyone can do it, but no one's willing to do it.
Yeah. Is there ever a time, because we had talked about this in our conversation before, you had described how spirit has a couple of paths. They can either go towards the light or they can go away from the light.
But not going away from it, just not going in.
Or just not going in. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
kind of stuck in not a purgatory, but
No, there's no such thing as purgatory. There's no such place as hell. There's no such thing as a Satan or a devil. There is a Lucifer. He's an archangel. He's actually one of my guides. He touches me right up here. Um, Everyone has seen his angel number 1111. That's who it is, and that has to do with business. So, yeah, you're either walking into the light or you're not. What's going to happen is you're going to wake up out of your body. You're going to look down and go, "Oh, I guess I don't need that anymore." You'll take a step to the left. You'll look to the right. A light will turn on for you. That is a portal for you to go into. And you're either going to walk in or not. And if you walk in, that's you letting go of all your pain, anguish, sorrow, grief, guilt, anguish, everything you've acquired here. Because you don't come into this world with it. You wake up in a baby body going, "Wah," and your mom and dad's going, "I'm your mom and dad." You're going, "I don't know who the heck you are, but okay." And then they raise you and they teach you the ways of the world, which is basically bullcrap. And all this lies and deception so that you'll, fall in line like everyone else does. You'll become sheep or, the flock, or now they call us the herd mentality. They're calling everybody cattle and people think that's okay. I don't think so. So, because, they tell you one day to eat bacon and then they tell you not the next day not to eat bacon. Well, you know who they are. But the problem is they need to shut the heck up. What we need to do is stop listening, but we don't. We pay attention to that narrative all the time. We follow through with it and fall in line. As I tell everyone, you can either stand up or be owned. And everyone else in this world is owned. So, but not me. I don't follow that stuff. So, but yeah, you'll stand up out of your body. You'll see that light and you'll go, but you're going to, at that moment, you're going to get perfect memories of your lifetime and all the other ones. And at that moment, you're going to know, because you're going to know you've been here many times before. And you're going to know, if I walk into that light, there's a possibility I might have to come back. And maybe you don't want to. Now, you can not have to come back again if you have learned your lessons, but what keeps you coming back is fulfilling your purpose. If you don't fulfill your purpose, you're going to come back. Now, purpose is not becoming a doctor, a lawyer, or a teacher. Purpose is not occupation. Purpose is we are here to help each other just for the sake of helping, not because you can, but because you should. In a way, we're going to do something for someone physically that they cannot do for themselves, or you're helping them to figure it out. doing acts of kindness, doing it for the reason of just because, doing it because you see a dog in the middle of the street and you don't want the dog to get hit by a car. So you get out of your car and you go get the dog and try to get it out of the street and maybe find its owner, maybe take it to the vet. Or you see somebody walking across the street and are having a hard time and you help them to get across the street. That's your purpose. Doing acts of kindness. It's not some big grandiose stories that you saw on television and movies that it's got to be something, it's not standing in front of a camera all day going, look at me, look at I'm providing all this food for all these people. Look how wonderful I am. Take pictures of me and put me on camera. No,
Yeah.
that's ego and that's your selfishness. And the ego and selfishness have no place whatsoever in spirituality. None. And if you have that, again, you have to let it go. You can't. So, yeah, so you're either going to walk into that light and go, okay, because once you walk into that light, you become a bright, white, loving soul again who likes to do good things. So, what will happen at that point is you will go to the holding place. They will go over your life with you. Some people call it a life review, and they talk to you about what you did and did not do, and they'll show it to you. And then, but if they talk to you more about what you did not do, you stay there. You don't go to what people call heaven. You're in heaven, but you are in this holding place because you have to make a return trip. You have to come back into another body and do it all over again. Why? Because you didn't help as many people as you could. Because purpose is choice. And you have to make a choice of whether or not you're going to do it because it's going to take just a moment out of your day. But some people go, oh, I ain't got time for that. I'm late for work. Well, if you are, get up earlier. It's pretty simple. But yeah, it's a choice that you're going to make to help someone just because, just for the reason of because, or just for an act of kindness. But not everybody wants to do that. They're so involved in their lives and thinking they need 6 cars and 7 houses and 10 boats and all that crap. You don't, because that's
Yeah.
not the true value in this world. Those things mean nothing because the true value in this world is us. Those things have no value until they're in your hands. So we are the true value. But that's why people don't do these types of things. And then if you don't do it enough as he would like us to do, you're coming back. Plain and simple. I don't make the rules. I just explain them. The average time is between 26 and 29 times, but that's not the most. I've done reading for a lady who was here one time 43 times. I mean, she at the end of her reading, she said, Daniel, do I have time to fulfill my purpose? I said, no, you have run out of time. What does that mean? That was my nice way of telling her she was going to pass away. She did 6 months later. When I get an answer, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking to the right hand of God. That's who I get my answers from. So yeah, you're either going to walk in or you're not. And if you don't, you remain here as an earthbound spirit. Low energy realm, as I call it, the dark place. Because it's not light there. The only light there is from the whoever is there, all the beings. And as many that cross over into the light, there's that many that don't. And there's gazillions. And not just people. People, dogs, cats, horses, cows, fish. There's no such thing as a rainbow bridge. There isn't. That's a poem. Not everybody crosses over into heaven because a lot of reasons. They don't go because they are lost and they don't know where to go. I tell people all the time, when you have dogs and cats and pets and animals, whatever, talk to them. Tell them where to go. Tell them at the end of their lives, because they're going to know. They understand it. Tell them to walk up into the light. Walk up to the light, move into the light, and pass through the light. Go into the light. Go home. But a lot of them don't know to do that. A lot of them get lost with that. A lot of them have that, I don't want to come back, and they stay here. A lot of them people have told them that they're a horrible person or God is going to judge you. Well, he doesn't judge us. We judge ourselves 1,000 times a day. Why does he need to do it once more? So God doesn't
Right.
punish us. We punish ourselves by the choices that we make. So the one who's sending you back here is you for not fulfilling your purpose and taking the time to do it. But yeah, they just don't always know where to go. Or maybe they were a bad person and they're just like, oh, I want to be a bad person. I don't want to let this go. Or they feel they got unfinished business. Well, there is no unfinished business. So, but yeah, a lot of them don't go. But I mean, a lot of them do go. A lot of the people ask me, what about people who are killers and all that stuff? Well, they go wherever they want to go. It's their choice. Because why?
Yeah.
You have free will. God gave us free will to make choices that we need in our lives. He made the choice. He gave you choice to make your decisions as well as he gave me for mine. So, but the ones that are best for you aren't the ones that are best for me. God is
Right.
not going to punish you and put you in a horrible place for something he gave you in order to make the choices that you made. So, but there is a choice of where you want to go. He created both places to give you a choice. That's all. Simple,
Yeah.
right?
It sounds simple. Yeah.
It's very simple. You know what it is? God made everything simple. People make everything complicated. They just do.
Yeah, that's true. We tend to complicate everything.
Yeah, I mean, I say it in this way all the time. Somebody say, What do you think of that guy over there? Oh, that guy? Oh, he's a piece of crap." "What? What do you mean? I thought you were a spiritual man." I said, "Oh, I am. I'm not judging him. He's a piece of crap because he chooses to be a piece of crap. You know what he can do? He can choose differently. Everything in our lives, everything in our lives is choice. I mean, if you and I were
Yeah.
best buddies and you came to me and you said, "Daniel, I'm having a problem drinking too much alcohol," and I'd say, "Okay," I said, "Here's what I'm going to do. I'll take you away from the drugs and alcohol. I'll keep you away from all that stuff. I'll take you to classes. I'll take you to AA if you need me to do that. I'll keep you away from all the bars and all that stuff. Although who doesn't like a good strip club, whatever. But I'll keep you away from all that stuff. But until you choose to stop drinking, no matter what I say or do, isn't going to make a difference. You have to want to do it, and the only person who's going to do it for you is you. The only one who's
Yeah.
gonna take your you can if you have depression, you can go to a doctor and he give you some medication. That's all it's gonna do is suppress it. Suppress it. It's still there. Or you go to another doctor who's gonna talk you down from it. You know what you could do? You can learn to talk yourself down from it. You can learn to let it go. Because your past is just your past. It is not a life sentence. And people
Yeah.
can't figure that out.
Right.
They
Yeah.
don't wanna get away from it. They wanna be a victim for the rest of their lives because
Yes.
this gives them a reason to continue. No, your reason to continue is learn your lessons, fulfill your purpose. There's no good lessons or bad lessons. There's no right and wrong. There's no epic failures. There's no mistakes. There's only what works and what doesn't work, and if it doesn't work for you, quit doing it. You walk
Yeah.
through a doorway, there's a nail in the floor, you trip over the nail. How do you learn that lesson? You go get a hammer, you bang it back in, you walk through the door freely. Not everybody does that. They trip and fall all the time. I know those people. I worked with them. I worked around them. It was called prison. They couldn't figure out that they were not good criminals. That's all. Because they kept getting caught all the time. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, people just can't seem to figure that out. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. It's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah,
It's the definition of insanity.
I had a lady come up to me one time and did a reading. She said, "Daniel, my last boyfriend was a horrible man, and so there was one before that and before that." I said, "Okay, what was the commonality between all three of them?" She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "There was something common there that you liked." She said, "Oh, they all had brown hair and blue eyes." I said, "You want the answer?" She said, "Sure." I said, "Go out with a blonde." It's that simple, but they can't figure it out. They think if I keep doing it, something's going to change. No.
Right.
At first you don't succeed. Try again. No. Try once, try twice. After that, done. Move on. Simple. People make it complicated. The world makes it complicated because the world wants you to believe that you should not have trust and faith within yourself to do anything in this world. They want you to rely on them for everything. When have they ever helped anybody? They don't. You have to wear this type of shoe. You got to be this big around or this big around. Or you got to look a certain way. You got to be standing on a runway, and these are the only beautiful people in the world. Well, no, they you know I always tell people all the time when you're walking down the street and you see somebody, you look at them and you go, I say, don't judge them. You don't have a right to do it. You see somebody, they may look a little disheveled that morning, and you know that because you've been disheveled, and you look at them and you go, you know what? Let me think to myself. Let me take a self inventory of myself and think of all the crap I've been through my entire life. And then look back at them and go, you know what? Maybe they're going through something too. And then bite your tongue and walk away because everyone's going through something. Everyone in this world is going through something. I don't care how much money you have or what your job is, everyone is going through something. But a lot of people are just good actors. And some of them show it and some people don't. But does that mean you have a right to say something about it or disagree with what they got going on? I mean,
Yeah.
we can all disagree, but I have found that people who are offended by everything have an inability to learn anything at all. So
That is very true.
that's up to them, but do I have to
Yeah.
judge them for that? No, I can just
No.
learn to accept them. But as I always tell people all the time, we can love all souls, but we don't have to like all people.
Yeah. That's very true.
We have to figure that out. We have to let go of the people in this world who are not helping us in this world. I don't care if it's your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, your best friend, your so-called best friend, because we all have one of those. If they're not helping to lift you up and be a positive person in this world, get rid of them. It's that simple. Just because they're that close to you doesn't mean that they're actually that close to you. Your family actually helps you. Most of my family who helped me aren't my actually blood family. That's my best friends. So that's what I gravitate towards because I stay away from all the negativity in the world. I don't deal with that stuff. I can't with all my energy picks up on it anyway. But yeah, we have to learn to work together in this world. I mean, that's a true reason why Jesus was here to let us all know that we can He did not die for our sins. I mean, he died for being a free thinker, letting everybody know that, hey, you know what? We can do this all together. We can help each other. We can take care of each other. We can share everything in the world because there's enough of everything in the world to take care of and share. But the people who saw that, the kings and queens and religion, because they don't want to tell you that that they saw him doing that, and they said, "Oh, we can't have this guy on the street. He's taking our power and control away from us. They can't all live together without us. I mean, we have to be able to control them." So they put him on a cross. They tortured and murdered him, and made an example out of him to let everybody know that if you do this, this is what we're going to do to you too. That's why they want you to wear a cross around your neck, not to remind you that Jesus died for you, to remind you that they have power and control over you. And if you do what he's doing, they're going to do it to you too, and they do it all the time. Not just religion, but our governments, everybody. Everyone's being persecuted all the time. Why?
Yeah,
Because they don't agree with what you do. So you know what? Separate yourself from them. You won't have to worry about it.
very
Simple.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to keep talking to you. This has been so amazing. If somebody wants to work with you, where can they reach you, and what can they expect when they work with you?
Well, they can expect. I got jokes, so they got to get past all my stupid jokes.
He does have jokes, and they're good.
Yeah, I do have some jokes every now and then. I say things, but I have an ability to have the gift of gab, and I just because you have to lighten it up. I mean, especially with me, I see so many spirit and so much stuff throughout my day. If you don't have a sense of humor, you got problems. Because I mean, it'll drive you crazy. For people don't
Yeah.
want to see what I see. Sometimes what I see, and because I see that low energy place, looks like the worst horror movie you've ever seen in your entire life. Except you wouldn't see this in kind of movies and television or movies because they can't show it because it's that kind of bad. But so you got to be able to handle that, and this is not easy to do. But I'm handling it because he made it so that I can handle it. But
Yeah.
if they want to get a hold of me, like I do readings for people. So I have a website called spiritmediumdaniel.com. It's one long word, spiritmediumdaniel.com.
And
You
I'll
can
put
go
that in the
there.
show notes as
Yeah,
well.
cool. They can come. I either do a regular reading for them. I do readings for mediums who have an ability, who are not quite sure, or they don't even know they can't get this figured out. Or some people just like to talk to me about spiritual stuff, and I do that too. And that's 2 hours long. I don't charge a lot. I charge $150 for 2 hours. Um, Pretty simple. Or now I also go on TikTok and I go on there, not to watch a bunch of stupid videos, that's for sure. But I go on there and I do a live show. I've been on there right now at this point almost 12 weeks. And I have about 3,800 followers in 12 weeks. I'm kicking butt on there. Why? Because people know I'm telling them the truth. That's why.
Yeah.
Someone said I'm giving them tough love in a way, but because I'm very blunt, I'm very straightforward, I'm very black and white. I have a no bullshit delivery, and I still got my jokes in there and stuff too. But I don't put up with crap with people who want to come in and tell me all the religious crap and all that stuff because no. But yeah, they can also find me on TikTok doing that. I'm on there 6:30 Mountain Standard Time. My name on there is Spirit Medium Daniel 1. They can find me. They can find my book. I have a book on Amazon. Where is my book? Ah,
Yeah. Show the book.
yeah, I got a book. Daniel Jackson, The New Beginning, My Awakening as a Spirit Medium. It's my story of how I became a medium, and everything that I went through, everything that happened to me and for me, as well as there's messages at the very end called the basics. And these are messages that I got from my guides, archangels, to provide us messages to help us to understand how we can become the best versions of ourselves while helping others to do the same. And when we're doing that, we're helping ourselves at the same time. Um, they can find me on Instagram at spirit.medium.daniel. They can find me if they go on YouTube. All you have to do is put in Spirit Medium Daniel, but put Jackson. That's my last name. So put in Spirit Medium Daniel Jackson because there's another guy on there named Medium Daniel. And so you can find me. I've been on over like 350 podcasts in the past 4 years. If they want to find me on information about me, just go to your favorite AI and and tell it, what can you tell me about Spirit Medium Daniel Jackson? And it'll start talking about my book. I mean, who else do you know that can do that and just starts talking about everything about you? And so it talks about my book. I talks about my show. I have a show on a spiritual streaming network called New Reality TV. It's newrealitytv.com. And I have a show on there called Beyond the Veil with Daniel Jackson. Me. That's how I started. And it talks about everything metaphysical and supernatural and a little bit of UFO stuff, not
Yep.
much, but this guy named Preston Dennett, he was pretty cool. He's on History Channel now. But yeah, you can find me pretty much everywhere if you're looking for just inspiration or you're looking just for information. I have a lot of experiences. I have a lot of experience itself with spirit, with other realms, other dimensions, because it's my life every single day, all day long. So if you need some type of information about that, again, I'm a medium, and I do get answers. I was doing a reading last night on TikTok, and the lady said, "What's my spirit guide names?" Because she was actually doing it what she needed to do, and I said, "One's coming through. His name is Jason, but another one is Andrea." She said, "What did you just say?" I said, "Andrea." She said, "Out of the gazillion names out there, how could you get that name?" I said, "'Cause they just told it to me." And she said, "That name has such a significance towards me. I'm actually having an issue with someone in my life because of that name." She says, "But I know I have to." I said, "You have to face this." She said, "I do." She
Yeah.
said, "'Cause there's no way in this world you could have known that name." I said, "I didn't. They just told it to me just now, so that's how I got
Yeah.
it." And she said, "How are you able to get that?" I said, "Because of one reason." She said, "What's that reason?" I said, "'Cause I'm the frickin' shizzle dizzle. That's why."
You are the shizzle dizzle. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah.
Well,
I
thank
do what
you
I do.
so, yeah. And you do it very well. And I appreciate you.
I appreciate
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much for coming on. And I will put everything in the show notes if you would like to get a hold of Daniel and have a reading. I'll put TikTok handle, all that good stuff. So thank you for hanging out with us on Fine I'll Talk About It. If today's episode got you thinking, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And if you want more real talk, more perspective shifts, and more finally someone said it moments, leave a quick review. It helps other people find the show. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Inspired Action Wellness for more conversations like this. See you in the next episode.